Hi, I'm Proma,
And I'm Radhika, and
and
together
together we're
we're
Prom
Prom
Rad.
Rad.
Today we are joined by Deputy Executive Editor at Us Weekly, Erin Strecker. She's also former Executive TV Editor at IndieWire, Entertainment Editor at Mashable. You've worked at Billboard, you've worked at Entertainment Weekly. Most importantly, Erin has been my friend for a decade now. Erin is here to talk about spring books and theater, two knowledge gaps that Rads and I have, which we will freely admit. So I'm excited for you to kind of just like talk at us this whole time and for us to ask questions because this is like your areas of expertise. I go to you for theater, books, and like Celine Dion and Taylor Swift trivia.
Correct. All
So
of these things. I'm very excited because these are things that I personally really, really love. And especially with books, like getting a friend to read the right book at any given moment is very exciting to me. And you, over the years, have always been such a great audience for that because you'll come over and I'll be like, here, read this one. And then you do, which is great
yeah,
because you want
I was
people to
just
take your recommendations.
for a lot of the time you were my boss, so I was like, yes, this is an assignment.
Yes, come on.
But now it's not.
But in a larger sense, it still is.
It's a friendship homework.
Exactly.
Love it. Erin, I think this is the first time we're meeting
I
properly.
know you've written stuff for me before over the
Yeah.
years, and I, of course, hear about you through promo, but this is very exciting.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's nice to finally meet you. And honestly, I think you got a shout out in our end of the year because Promo chose one of the books that you recommended her. So,
Wow, I love
like,
this.
it all
But
comes full circle.
I also
I
can't
respect
say that I'm
you.
surprised.
All right, should we just dive right in?
Let's do the books. So, mostly, so promo knows I love a rom-com and I love a thriller. Like I love like a good like book club book. I guess I'm kind of doing three categories because while I read less of them, I actually have a couple memoirs to recommend today as well. So I'll start off with one of those. It is a big New York City book at the moment. It is Strangers by Belle Burden. If you aren't familiar, this started as a modern love column 2 to 3 years ago, I believe. And it went super viral. And it's about this woman who is a socialite. Like she's the granddaughter of Bill Paley, who like founded CBS, and her grandmother was a socialite, her mother was a socialite, like she is a socialite. In the early days of the pandemic, her husband, who is a hedge fund guy in New York, randomly was like, hi, I want a divorce. She says completely out of nowhere. She finds out he's been having an affair. He wants a divorce, and then he like walked out of her life, including her three preteen and teenage kids' lives. Like he didn't want custody. He just literally was like, I need out of this life. So she wrote a modern love column about this, and it went really viral. And she's a very empathetic storyteller, and it's also just like the wildest story. But then from that, wrote a full book that came out in January called Strangers, and it's basically it starts with this revelation of this day in March 2020, and then the rest of the book is about her looking back over her life and trying to find the clues that don't exist about how she could be married to this person who she's finding out she knew nothing about. It's fascinating. As I said, she's a really empathetic storyteller, and even though she is coming at it from a place of lots of different privileges, she's a Vanderbilt on her dad's side, she still manages to find this very relatable way of telling the story. And it's also like it's one of these books that you're just going to inhale. Like I think I finished it in like 2 hours. And finally, I'll take a breath after and let you questions. But the other really exciting thing is that it's now going to be a movie, and Gwyneth Paltrow is going to play her, which is amazing. It's kind of like Gwyneth Paltrow's return after Marnie Supreme.
That's great casting. I love that.
Really wild memoir.
Me at Modern Love Column, honestly, I famously love reading those, and I actually like really liked the show that they did. It was hit or miss on the episodes, but I like that as a concept, and so this is so up my alley. I feel like I've seen a lot of people talk about this book online. Like once you started talking about it, I was like, oh, the divorce book. Like I've heard about that.
Yes, so I cannot relate to this experience because I'm not married, but I know a lot of like married women in their 40s are like, this book speaks to like the weirdness I feel in my marriage or like the inability to ever fully know someone. So yes, totally, like it's resonating for a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
That's scary, honestly, that people are resonating so
Yeah,
deeply.
I mean, people are who they are. I don't know. I'm not going to spoil anything, but in the course of the book, there are certainly some red flags that are like ding, 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 ding. But you know what? It's very easy to find red flags in someone else's life and much harder to see them in your own.
Totally. And hindsight's always 2020 on that too. In the moment, you can explain anything away. So
Exactly. So I guess maybe jumping into the other memoir, This one just came out this week. It is Fame Sick by Lena Dunham. Here's my top line. If you're already like, I hate Lena Dunham and I am not interested in what she has to say, this book isn't going to necessarily change your mind. But as someone who loves girls and like is interested in a lot of her work, it's a very interesting book. And I came away with it with a lot of empathy for her. But also I really appreciated that, unlike the headlines you've seen this week about it, she takes great pains to not make this book a teardown thing. Like, it is not just like Jack Antonoff broke up with me, or like there's a lot of headlines about like her and Adam Driver's relationship, and it really doesn't condense into an easy headline, because it is much more about, again, to go back, kind of the unknowability of people, or how two people can have very different experiences out of the same set of events. It's a book in a lot of ways about shades of gray. It's very fascinating for the girls' TV show gossip, but it's also becomes this story about this physical ailments that she has, and kind of how her body was being destroyed from the inside out over this decade where she achieved great fame. It's fascinating, it's interesting, it's very funny in the way that Girls often is. So if there's any part of you that feels like intrigued by Girls or intrigued by Lena, this is a great one.
I mean, we devoured her first one when that came out, because did we share it? Did we get our own copies? I think we got our own copies of that one.
No, I think we shared it. Did we?
No?
Didn't we?
Well, that's amazing.
I definitely have one on my shelf over here, so I think we shared it.
I don't have it, yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay. So
And
read
we
this
devoured Girls as well. Like, that came out, I think we were seniors in college when it came out, or maybe juniors when
when
it
it
started.
started. Yeah, it was like the
And then
summer
we like
before.
moved to New York as people who wanted to be writers, so it was very resonant for us.
And that was a show that I definitely, like, one of my early experiences where at times I was kind of hate watching it, but I was like, the writing is so, so good that I can't not consume that. And that was the same in her book and in everything she's written. Like, I think people mostly tend to agree wherever they land on her, if they're consuming her work, that she's just like an extremely talented writer. And so, like, I'm excited to just like read more of her writing. Separately, I want to say, because of this book coming out this week, a clip from Girls crossed my timeline yesterday. I mean, many of them were coming and going, but I actually watched it through all 2 minutes of it, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't go back to this. Not in a bad way at all. It was so of the time and of our 20s, and it just like yanked me back to that. And I was like, okay, no, I lived it. I'm good.
Oh, see, that's so interesting, because I watched it all as it was happening, and I was at Entertainment Weekly at the time when she was kind of exploding, and I was writing about Girls a lot, and I was like very, very in it. And so I feel like I watched each episode like when it aired, and then like probably like one other time like throughout the week as like it was like being consumed by it. But then once it went off the air, I was like, and I am done with that experience. And then outside of like a Twitter clip occasionally, like I really never rewatched it like during the pandemic or ever. And so then when this book was happening like a couple weeks ago, I started rewatching it again for kind of the first time, and I actually really loved it. I loved it so much more that I remember liking it at the time, even though I did like it at the time. I really came away from the experience this past month being like, oh, this is really good. I don't know if it's that I have enough distance from my 20s or what, but like it's not painful regularly in the same way that I think it would have been if I had been watching it like again in 2019.
I might have that experience if I sat down and watched it like more, or just like for more than 2 minutes, but because that was the first clip of it that I've watched in like 10 years, I was like, just like not unprepared. Also, because it wasn't actually on my timeline. It was like I watched a different video, and then it was like the automatic next video. So I didn't choose it. It
chose you.
It shows you. Yeah. I've been wanting to rewatch it because I feel like everyone has been doing their Girls rewatch. And like you said, Erin, I feel like there's enough distance from it now that I think I would devour it again and have a different perspective on it, obviously. But to what you said earlier, I've listened to a few podcast appearances that she's done this week, and I think the way she's talking about that time marks an immense maturity. Just the way that she's like, I'm writing about these really important relationships, and I think she was talking about the Jenny Connor relationship and then the Jack Antonoff one. And she is taking full responsibility of like, I wasn't my best self in them, but I was also 24 when that was happening. And I am now looking back at it and having the clarity that I have now as a 40-year-old. And like, especially with the Jenny Connor one, because she's like, I was in a business relationship with this person, but I thought she was my best friend. And like, that's not how that works. And I like fully understand that now. And so just even her talking about it has really made me want to read the book, because she is such a fantastic writer. Like, obviously Girls is amazing. We loved her memoir, but she's also been popping up on Substack a lot for me. She's just kind of throwing stuff out there, and I just feel like she finds a way to be relatable, even though obviously we live very different lives than her, but she still finds that thread that makes things kind of fit for everyone, where everyone's kind of had a similar experience with a falling out with a friend or a big breakup that has really affected them. And so all that to say is I'm very excited to read this book, and your stamp of approval also adds to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. If anyone has not read or listened to her interview in the New York Times, I also found it incredibly thoughtful and really memorable. Both the book and that interview also reminded me, and Proma will laugh because we kind of wondered how long it would take, but I came away with it doubly like, oh, I see why Taylor Swift and Lena Dunham are friends. In addition to everything else, in addition to like some emotion forward stuff and over analyzing, this week particularly, it was interesting to me because Lena Dunham is very good at explaining her work, and some artists are very good at that part of it as well, and some of them are not or choose not to be, etc. And I think Taylor often gets praised for both her work but also her ability to explain her work. And this week with Lena, I think she's doing a really good job of explaining her work in a similar way. So now we feel like we're done with memoirs, and as I said, I love a rom-com. I'm constantly giving Proma rom-coms to read.
I have a backlog.
Yeah, and it's gonna get even longer. I'll focus on two. So one, it comes out at the beginning of June, and it's called Trope Sick. It is by a woman named Lauren Oakey, and it is about this writer, Katie, and this other writer, Tyler. And as you might imagine, it kind of deconstructs all the different tropes. And I would say this book is solidly good, not like outstanding at the top of my list. I would give it a solid B+, but like, as anyone who reads a bunch of rom-coms knows, a solid B+ is still much better than most. I really liked this one because it was a clever idea. It's these two childhood friends. A tragedy happened when they were young adults, so they haven't spoken in several years, and they get thrust back together on this job to ghostwrite a novel for this acclaimed novelist. And throughout the book, as they're working on the story, they find themselves in all of the different like tropes and situations that are famous in the genre, like there's only one bed, or enemies to lovers, and all these various things. And so she's kind of poking fun at all of that, but it also is still very genuine feeling. And I think it was just like the right time for this book, because as the rom-com genre has exploded over the past handful of years, and obviously there's always been a ton of romance books, but like the very specific kind that Book Talk is into and that like we see at the table in Barnes & Noble, I have had the experience where sometimes those books are fun, and then sometimes you're reading it and it's like, these are not even characters, you are literally just doing a trope, and there's no emotion behind it. And for me, like that, I'm like, I'm out, like I can't do that. So I thought this was a fun way to kind of have that conversation with a reader about tropes that we all love. It's cute and fun and has the kind of an underpinning of heaviness that like Emily Henry is really good at, that I always appreciate, that gives it some stakes.
I relate so hard to what you said about that too, where if you read enough of them, you can kind of clock that like this is just a mishmash of tropes. And also like some of the writing gets that way too, where I'm like, oh, this is like, what is this sentence? And this isn't necessarily a fault of the individual writer. Like they might be a good writer, but because if you consume too much of the genre, like certain sentences will even start to sound like parodies of themselves. Like I found myself growing more sensitive to that. But this sounds like it has a nice little meta layer kind of thread of self-awareness that would make that more digestible, even if it does happen.
Totally. Another rom-com I love this is probably my favorite ones that I've read in the last like 2 years, let's say. So they're a little bit older. The most recent one came out in October, but we're gonna allow it. So I think that these should be a Netflix miniseries. I think they should be interconnected. I have a whole idea. It's a series of Jane Austen adaptations that are set in modern day New York City.
I think I have 2 of them from you, 2 or 3 of them.
I think so.
Yeah.
So the first one is Emma of 83rd Street, which is based on Emma. And it came out in 2023, 2024, and it is so delightfully fun. And it's exactly what I said. It's Emma and it's set on 83rd Street. Then the next year, there's Elizabeth of East Hampton, which is Pride and Prejudice, and is set in the Hamptons in the summer, and is again just like they're so clever because they're everything I said about that I love about a rom-com, but then it also works in so smartly all the little Jane Austen details, like famous lines or famous like side characters, and like how they're reinterpreted so that they have the same characteristics, but obviously it's a different setting and time and everything. So great. And then honestly, I think my favorite of the three is the final one that came out in October. It's Anne of Avenue A, and it is based on Persuasion, and it's the same deal. Like, they are so clever, and they're interconnected in that all of the guys kind of exist in the same universe, so like one of them will pop up in another one. I'm reading it and I love it. They're the best beach books in the world, but also they would make such a good Netflix miniseries. I should mention that it's by two friends, Audrey Beleza and Emily Harding, that wrote all three of those.
I love like those modernized adaptations, and it's not like Clueless or whatever, but it's like still keeping in the vibe of what it is, but bringing it to New York. I love that.
Not
Yeah,
Austin, but Aaron loaned me Anna Kay a few years ago,
Oh, yeah.
which was the modern day Anna Karenina, which was also, I think, on like Upper East Side or something.
That was supposed to be an HBO Max adaptation, like several years ago, and that clearly never happened. But yeah, that's also a very fun one.
I crucially did not read the original. I didn't remember the movie, so the ending was a surprise.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
it's
haven't read that either.
not a comedy like you would expect.
Just a general question, but like, how do you find these titles? Like, what's your, like, are you on Book Talk? Are you going to Barnes and Nobles? Are you getting advanced copies of stuff? Like, what's your...
Kind of all over. I am very like never judge a book by its cover. I do all the time. The cover and the description, I am very strict, and I can tell right away if I'm going to like something or if I'm not going to like something. I definitely do get a lot of pitches from publicists, and especially in my genres like rom-coms and thrillers. But also, I mean, I read a ton of book recommendations. Like, I feel like I'm synthesizing all the different book clubs at any given time and figuring out which of the titles that others are recommending I know that like I personally will like.
I admire it so much because I feel like we've all done that with TV at some point, but because of that, I feel myself falling off of other mediums. I've spoken about this on the podcast like 4 times now, where I'm like, I'm bad on movies. I'm like falling behind. I like don't know what music is cool, and then I take my book recommendations directly from Erin, which is probably like one of the hippest ways to do it. But yeah, really.
You and my mom.
Now, me.
Literally, my mom went on vacation last week, and she was just like, okay, tell me like 3 books to read. And I like told her, and she was like, I love these so much. Like, each one was great. One of which was Count My Lies, which they are turning into a TV show right now that they're filming in New York with Lindsay Lohan and Shailene Woodley and Kit Harington. And it is a very, very fun thriller.
Ooh. Wait, have you heard anything about Yesteryear, or have you read it already? Has it come out? The one that's the
Yes,
travel.
I have read it. I really like it. I was explaining to a friend of ours, I loved the first 90% of it, and then I don't like the ending.
Oh.
But I think it'll be a very cool movie. It's funny that Anne Hathaway is doing it because she's entirely the wrong age. Like, it's supposed to be like a 24-year-old, and then also at a different point, like a 50-year-old, and she's neither. So I truly don't know what's going on there.
No.
Oh no, I hope they're not going to AIDH her or whatever.
It does feel like one of those things where, like, there are several, because I've read them, all of these books that are trying to hit it on the, like, trad wife influencer thing, and then putting that topic in various genres. This is a thriller and a drama, and you can just tell, like, this is the one that's like, oh, it makes sense that this is the one that got the big advance, and this is the one that they're turning into a movie, because I've read a couple others, and it's like, it feels like it kind of misses what the trad wife moment is telling us, whereas Yesteryear, I think, does have something to say about, like, why women are doing it and why it doesn't work or what is lacking there.
I want to check that one out for sure.
Yeah. So my other book is Cherry Baby by Rainbow Rowell, who I love. I love Rainbow Rowell books like Eleanor and Park.
Landline? I loved Landline.
Landline is great.
Yeah, I only know about Rainbow Rowell because of Proma.
Yes,
Oh,
I had
okay.
my Rainbow Rowell phase was like while we were living together, and because I bought Eleanor and Park like randomly for like $1, and so I was like, I don't care what this is, it's $1, and I'd heard of Rainbow Rowell because of the conventions that I used to go to. There was always like a lit track, and so she was one of the authors who had come there. Sorry, keep going. New Rainbow Rowell, I didn't even know.
Her other one I really like is Slow Dance. That's her other like adult one. And then I got into her because of Fangirl, which is like the best book about fan fiction I've ever read. Even though she did a bunch of other fan fiction stuff later, Fangirl is still my favorite. But this one is about a middle-aged woman whose husband writes a very popular animated comic strip, and they're getting divorced, and it's kind of her relationship. It's about, middle age and divorce, but it's also about her relationship to this cartoon character, which is like, she's like a fat caricature, and then her having to discover that she's this real person. I would call it like a romantic drama, I think, or just kind of like an adult drama novel. It's the same deal. I would say this is a solid B+. It wasn't my favorite of Rainbow Rowell's, but I like her writing so much that I still am like, will consume anything she writes, and even like a not the best Rainbow Rowell is still like pretty good.
Divorce is just like in the ether, huh?
Oh my gosh, I think I read like 5 different books about divorce and like middle-age like malaise. Is that how you say that?
Middle-aged malaise is a phrase, I feel like. Let's make that a thing. Let's brand it. Well, no. Well, we can't, personally. That's appropriation. But it's a genre, clearly.
Yeah, it's definitely genre. Because then there's also the new Emma, now I'm going, but there's the new Emma Straub book, American Fantasy, which is about the middle-aged woman who's getting divorced, who goes on a boy band cruise.
I'm here for it.
I'm like 50 pages into that. I just started that one, but yeah, I literally was reading it and I was like, oh, this is just like Cherry Baby, and I was like, oh yes, it's the thing in the moment. All of these authors are like, what if we got divorced, and what if life wasn't what we thought it was gonna be? If only there was a theme song to a certain show that suggested that life doesn't always turn out the way you think it's gonna be.
I think that was all of your books, right? And
Yes. Now I can do
my
my
jump into theater, where I will have much less. I have like zero context of theater happening in New York, so this will be very
In
educational.
LA, we don't have theater.
Yeah, we don't. Well, we have traveling shows that I don't really go to, so.
Proma also saw this. My favorite one is Titanic, which
Oh, I did see this. I
is
saw
incredible.
it in Chicago.
Amazing.
So, whatever counts.
Yeah, it's been off Broadway, it's been in London, apparently it's been in Chicago, and now it's finally made its way to Broadway. It is an incredible, zany, 100-minute story. Like, it's a musical parody of Titanic told through the songs of Celine Dion, who was also there on the Titanic. It is so stupid in the best way, in the way that, like, Oh Mary is stupid in the best way, but it's really clever. I love this show. I also love the music of Celine Dion, but you do not have to only like the music of Celine Dion. If you're neutral on Celine Dion, you can still love Titanic. It is so weird and funny and goofy, and you just feel so good watching it.
I don't think I ever laughed harder than during this show. Like, it was hilarious. And I went by myself, like, when I was visiting Chicago, and had an absolute blast, so.
I'm only going to mention Drunk Bollywood once, but I realized that I saw this before I started working on that show, like around the time that it was kind of like brewing in my head. And there's so much of, not to say that I like subliminally absorb Titanic and pour that into Drunk Bollywood, but I think it's also such a generational thing for us of parodying something you love. Like, there's so much Star Kid type humor of layering in the pop culture references and like putting in something timely. Like, there are jokes that I have to imagine change every few weeks or months just based on like what is in the zeitgeist. And yeah, it's just like nonstop laughs because of that, and for a very specific crowd. Like, they know their audience so well. I went wearing this baby.
Incredible. Incredible.
The first time I saw it off Broadway, I wore this thing and I was treated like a god. I've never been so respected in my life, and I will chase that feeling forever.
You always have a prop. I love it.
The other play I really like, I think is my other like favorite thing of the season, is this play Becky Shaw.
This is the one about a blind date, right? Or like a date?
Yeah, that's how they're marketing it. It's about a blind date. So I thought it was a new play, but it actually is a revival from 2008 or 2009. And it was nominated. The play was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize, which totally makes sense to me. It's about these two friends, a guy and a girl, and they're kind of raised as siblings as teenagers. Then the girl, as an adult, gets married to this guy. Then the first guy comes back into the picture, and they decide that they want to set him up on a blind date with a distant friend of theirs, Becky Shaw. So they all come to the house, and it kind of devolves from there. But it is about a lot more than just a bad blind date. It's about gender politics and relationships and family stuff. I love a huge play like August Osage County about family dysfunction. And this is kind of the comedy version of family dysfunction, because there's a lot of family dysfunction plot and heavy dramatic stuff, but it's also so freaking funny. It's like the uncomfortable kind of funny where like something hits too close to the bone, and that's happening the entire time here. Also, currently stars Patrick Ball from the Pitt, which he's great, it's exciting. And also, I'm going to butcher his name, but I love him so much, Alden Ehrenreich. I have never heard his name said out loud.
Alden Ehrenreich?
Was it to us a simple?
Yeah, I can quote his lines back at him, but I can't say his last name. But he is fantastic. He's the best part of the show. He's gonna get a Tony nomination. He'll probably win. It's so fun. Oh, and Lauren Patton's in it too, who's been in like musicals. Anyway, it's a really great show. I think there's 5 people in it total. And it is just this great classic play that is so funny and also like gives you plenty to think about.
Oh my god, you've sold me. Next time I come to New York, Proma, we're going.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one.
if you don't see it before that, or you'll just have to see it again with me.
Erin is usually the way that I'm seeing shows, so I'll save that one for you.
And the final show that I wanted to talk about is Dog Day Afternoon, which is an adaptation of the movie, and it is with John Barenthal and Desi himself. And it got really bad reviews. Like, critics like were loathing this. And so I had tickets for like the week after reviews came out, and I was sort of like, oh, this is gonna be a bummer. Now, full disclosure, embarrassing for me, I had never seen the movie Dog Day Afternoon, although I had read the plot description and had seen the scenes. So like I didn't have this like real fondness for the movie that I think a lot of people have.
I think we're 3 for 3 on that on
I
this
was gonna say
podcast.
we're both laughing because I don't think we've seen it either.
Yeah, I'm like,
So,
I just
safe space once again.
But I thought it was really, really great. And I went with 4 different people, 2 of whom like died for the movie, and then 2 of us who had never seen it. And all 4 of us had the same reaction, which was just like, I don't know what critics were talking about. Like, I would again give this like a solid B+. Iban is not great. He doesn't have a lot to do, but he also kind of feels like a little out of place. But John Barenthal is so good. And the play is really intense and like tightly wound where like you're stressed the whole time, like in a good way. It's mostly about a bank robbery. I came away liking it, and then the whole following week I just kept rethinking about it and being like, oh, I would recommend this to anybody. Like if anyone wanted to like come to New York and see a Broadway play, like this is what I would totally tell you to go see.
I feel like I saw the bad review headlines, but I didn't read any of them. Like, what were critics criticizing about it? Like,
Everything. They thought John Barenthal like wasn't good. They thought Ivan wasn't good. They thought the play was like a bad adaptation. Just kind of everything, and I just completely disagreed. In addition to everything else, I thought the set was really, really cool. So yeah, I typically, as a theater critic, I tend to agree with most critics about most things for theater things, but this is one where I had a very different opinion and takeaway.
Have you since seen the movie or no?
No.
Because I was curious. I'm like, do you agree about the adaptation part of it? Because that is always an interesting point of contention.
Totally. I understand that it's a very loyal adaptation. Like, as I said, I read a plot description about some of the reveals in the movie that are also in the play.
I was gonna say I didn't even know it was about a bank robbery, so you've taught me something.
That's it. Those are my recommendations. Those are the things you should read and see.
So first thing is Radhika has to buy her ticket to New York, or we'll pile it all into your summer weekend. And then books wise, Erin, I'm just gonna borrow them. You're just gonna put them in my hands like always.
The second I'm done with Famesick, which I have about 40 more pages, so that review does not count the final 40 pages, I know that I'm just gonna give it to Proma like this weekend.
Yeah. I have tickets to go see Lena Dunham talk with Rita Wilson, in which a book is part of the ticket, so I will be getting it during that.
Oh, that would be really,
And I'm
really
really excited because I know she's so controversial, but I really find her such a well-spoken person and really insightful, so I'm hyped for it.
I went to her book launch on Monday, and she was interviewed by her best friend, and it was the same deal we were talking about earlier, where she was like extremely well spoken, said lots of really thoughtful, engaging things. It just like she's clearly thinks a lot about things, and I enjoy listening to her takes on things.
And again, for like our generation career path like experience too, like she is just such an important figure who we couldn't avoid and who ended up played a really big role, just like her presence, her voice, etc. And like even if someone our age or living in New York like didn't consume girls or like her book and stuff directly, like I do think that she kind of just that influence spread much wider.
Yes, I also think that it would have been really, really easy for her to write a book about girls. Like, this was my experience making girls, and here's the girls' background and gossip. And that is so not what this book is. She actually talks about this day-to-day set stuff on girls very, very, very little. Even like Christopher Abbott isn't mentioned at all, to the best of my knowledge. If he is, it's a casting mention. Like, there's nothing about his dramatic exit or anything like that. So I mean, it's really about her relationship with Jenny Connor and her relationship with Adam Driver. I really appreciated that in this book, but it also made me think that I would love eventually, maybe with the resurgence, for her to write a book like Phoebe Waller-Bridge did for Fleabag, where it's just the scripts of girls with her annotations or her notes or something that's very much like the text. I would totally buy that.
Oh, I would eat
Oh,
that
yeah.
up. Yeah, I think in that same New York Times interview, she mentioned like her first book she wrote over the course of 8 months, and then this one, she said she wrote it over the course of 8 years, and you can kind of just see how much more she thought about what she wanted to put out there, and so I'm really excited personally. That was the number one recommendation that is most imminent for me to consume.
I love that.
And I will be grabbing it, taking it, snatching it out of Erin's hands very soon. So, well, thank you, Erin, so much for coming on and schooling us, frankly.
with us.
I love this. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. I feel like New John Green coming this year feels like another occasion for us to just millennial out about books.
That's gonna be beyond for us.
Yeah.
Totally. I can't wait.
You'll be our book and theater correspondent.
This is huge for me.
A title.
Where can everyone find you online?
Oh, you can follow me on X at Erin Strecker, Strecker, or Instagram at eStrecker, Strecker 313.
And then also, you write for Us Weekly now, but people can find you in print. I picked up a physical copy the other day, and like I got to see your byline, which was so cool. We don't get to do that much anymore.
It is the weirdest thing, but yes, every week in Us Weekly, I am also doing movie and TV recommendations. So the very things I'm not doing here.
It's a nice little
Happy to
break.
provide a different outlet, a release.
Absolutely.
Find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. That's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and follow, comment, subscribe, share. The love.
Yeah, if you've read any of these books or seen any of these shows, let us know. If you have your own recommendations, we are always open for that. So feel free to
Tag a friend who you want to
comment.
share one copy of a book with.
Tag a friend who you want to fly across the country to go watch a show with as well.
Yes. And tag a friend who's seen Dog Day Afternoon. Because I don't know if I have one.
I'm sure we do. I'm sure one of the boys.
It's ocean.
I'm sure one of the
Yeah.
boys has seen it. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.
I hate tequila.